board first and then share my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
It's kind of weird that this is in the middle of my, okay. Okay, so performance management and appraisal. Pretty important topic, and relates very much to culture, because the performance appraisal system is very much a reflection of the culture of the organization. I've worked for companies with a variety of different assessments. One of them was a college that did not believe the evaluation was always done by the provost of all the faculty. The provost did not know us well, so she would swoop in and evaluate us, and we always felt like she didn't really know what she was rating us on. So there was a lot of mistrust. And the other thing is the ratings that she gave us, there was 3 levels: needs improvement, average, and excellent. So not very distributed. And she believed that only 1 faculty per campus could get excellent.
Oh.
So it was very demoralizing to the group, because no matter how much you tried, only 1 person was going to get excellent. Everybody else was going to get either average or needs improvement. So there were some really serious issues with that. I worked for another company where my supervisor never gave me any feedback. And when it came time for appraisal, he would hand me the form and he would say, "Here, fill it out and then we can talk about it." So he always wanted me to evaluate myself, and he never provided any guidance. And that's not really helpful either. So a performance appraisal really sets what the work standard is and should provide feedback to the employee. It can be used for pay, for promotions. It can be used in retention decisions. In other words, if the person consistently scores low, we could decide to let that person go, right? If you've talked to them and they're not improving. The manager can also use this to help the employee see how their work is connected to the organization as a whole. And it can be used to help correct any deficiencies, in reinforce strengths, and plan for the future career of that employee. So, let's see. There are different ways of doing appraisals. It could be a peer review, it could be your supervisor, it could be a committee, or it could be you. The 360-degree feedback is when employees give feedback of their supervisors. And you can look through the book at the different methodologies. A lot of these have some pretty serious flaws to them. So alternation ranking method, you take, let's say you have 10 employees, you rank them from 1 to 10. 1 being the best employee, 10 being the worst employee. And you can't repeat any numbers. Well, that means that a lot of employees are going to feel like they are subpar. And it can be discouraging. Paired comparison is also demoralizing if you are always comparing one employee to another. It can cause a lot of jealousy with the employees as well. Forced distribution is kind of like grading on the curve and saying, you know, only X% can be excellent. The appraisal performance methodology that has survived the test of years and employee engagement is management by objectives. And that is where you set your objectives with your employee of what they're going to do and how it ties into the corporation's goals. And then rather than just once a year reviewing, you review on a regular basis. And that way, no employees are never surprised, and it feels like you care about improving that employee. Let's see. You need to make sure that the people that are doing the appraisals are well trained so that they don't introduce biases. And the whole process needs to be fair. You can read about fairness later on. So when you're going to do an appraisal, the manager needs to be prepared, and so does the employee. So here at Andrews, I will come and I will have evaluated the goals that I set last year, and I will have demonstrations of how I reached them, and my chair will have looked over them, and he will have made comments on my progress. So it's very much, here's the goals that I set, here's what I did, and then my supervisor says, this is what I saw you do. And if I didn't reach something, we're going to talk about what did I need, and how can I do better next year. So it's very much of a conversation. It's very difficult if you create an ambiance where employees are defensive, and very much that goes with the culture of the organization. And if employees are feeling defensive, then I would say the company needs to reevaluate what their approach is. And you need to be constructive in giving feedback to a subordinate rather than tearing them down or criticizing them. There are times where you've asked for improvement and that improvement has not happened, and so you have to give them a formal written warning. Those formal warnings do go into the HR files, and a company can have a policy of 3 write-ups and you're out, or any remedial thing in between if you get written up to ensure that you do improve your behavior. So Chapter 10 talks about careers and retention. The best organizations that have the highest retention and highest engagement are companies that are helping employees manage their careers. They are helping an employee plan for the future, get the training or the development they need so that they're prepared for advancement, or for lateral transfers within a company. And these are companies that are very proactive in helping their employees grow. So it's interesting that they talk about the psychological contract, which is an unwritten agreement that exists between employers and employees. And that really is that The unwritten agreement is that an employer will be helping you grow professionally. The employee holds the primary responsibility in their career management and in continuing the conversation with their supervisor without creating an environment of fear or of intimidation. The employer then needs to do realistic job interviews. It's good to do some job rotation so that the employees learn a variety of jobs. And the appraisals could be career oriented to help them. Some companies hire career coaches. Some companies, as soon as you are put into a supervisory position, you are assigned a coach and you have someone to help you learn how to be a good manager. A lot of companies give you different options for training and career growth. So let's see. A good manager learns mentoring and coaching skills and is prepared to help their employees gain improve in their performance and gain managerial skills as they go along. Some companies will give you opportunities for career advancement under certain conditions, and they can be very much tied to an appraisal. If you are performing consistently above and you are seeking out job rotations and workshops and whatever. But let's say that you on your own go and learn something. It is up to the employee to come back to the employer and let them know what they've been doing. Retention and turnover avoiding high turnover and maintaining retention and engaged employees is very important to an organization. I mentioned in the classroom, Google was, is this company that people dream of working for, and yet they have one of the highest turnover rates in the nation. And a couple years ago, they were ranked highest turnover in corporate America, in the Fortune 1000 companies. So they have been actively trying to keep employees more involved and to decrease that turnover. One of the reasons that the turnover is so high is that it is very competitive and it's constantly moving. So employees end up having to work long hours a lot and they burn out. So a comprehensive approach to retaining employees. Any employee that's leaving should have an exit interview. You should do attitude surveys on a consistent basis. You should have open door policies and hotlines where employees can report issues. You should provide stay interviews. In other words, periodically talk to your employees and ask them, interview them about why are they choosing to stay and what can you do to improve that and to help more employees stay. So career advancement is very, very important, and helping employees see the advantages of staying long-term would be very advantageous. So they say it costs about 6 months' salary to truly train an employee and get them ready to be fully usable, full capacity for the organization. So if you think about, you're paying an employee $30,000 a year, training them and onboarding them is going to be $15,000. If you're paying $120,000 to an employee, $60,000 to get them up and running properly. So it's very much an advantage to a company to do this right and not have a revolving door of people leaving the company and you having to consistently hire more. There are times, though, that you must dismiss an employee, and here are 5 reasons that you would have grounds for dismissal. Number 1, unsatisfactory performance, and you would have to have that documented, and you would have to document that you've tried to help them and they have not improved. You can dismiss them for misconduct, lack of qualifications for the job, changed requirements of the job, and for insubordination. In every single one of these cases, you must document, and you must document that you tried to help the employee as well. If you do dismiss someone, you need to seriously consider a severance package. You need to train the person who does the dismissal, and you must allow for dialogue and a full explanation. Check this one out later on. It's the median weeks of severance pay by job level. If someone's been there 15 years, you may need to pay them a half a year in severance to be fair if they're an executive. So you also want to avoid being sued and avoiding wrongful discharge. So documentation is extremely important, and you should always seek advice from HR and from legal counsel to ensure that you are doing things correctly when you dismiss someone. There is personal liability for supervisors who do not follow due process in dismissals, and there are security measures that must be taken to ensure that an employee does not steal trade secrets when they're leaving. Always plan for an exit interview and give them an opportunity to talk, to explain themselves, and to review severance with them. Some companies will offer outplacement counseling and will offer job placement as part of the package as well, especially if it's not because of wrongdoing. So if a plant is closing or if you're having to lay some people off, this is where you must very, very carefully put programs together to help them get other jobs. Same thing with downsizing. You need a method. Hold on a second. You need a methodology to ensure that you treat people fairly, that you treat everybody equally, that it's just and fair when you're downsizing or when there are mergers. So those are some overview thoughts about the 2 chapters.